Welcome to the very first show of Divergent, Reconstructing Reality from Truth. My name is Justin Rekla, and I am your host for this journey down the rabbit hole. If you've been following me on social media, if you are here from TikTok, YouTube, thank you for being here. If you're a fan that's been following since my time in incorporating superpowers as the host there, or if you know me through my daughter and her shows, or where'd it go? My wife and her shows, or the network itself. You may know us. We're ranked in the top 1.5% of podcasts globally. We've been broadcasting since 2016, when my wife got the hit to just start talking about reality, what it is, what it's not, right? The exploration of mind. And you're here for a particular reason. And I know it's because there's a reveal that's going to happen, and it's going to happen. But in order for you to understand this reveal, you need to understand the backstory of how I got here, who I am, what I've done, what we've done as a family. It's important. It's huge, because the problem set that I'm bringing forth is one that I predicted 15 years ago. And it stems at the heart of why I chose to leave the best goddamn job in the fucking world. You don't get to do anything cooler than being a counterintelligence agent, let me tell you. Even in the small part that I played, because I spent most of my career as an instructor. But I did make some impact along the way and unlocked some stuff and had an impact on the training that was involved with the units that I was in and a part of. And it's kind of ironic because everything that's happened for me, now that I know myself, and this will make sense in a minute as I share the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say, as I've come to know myself, as high functioning autistic, and that all makes sense here in a moment, as it lines up with the reveal, because it's one of those it takes one to know one type of things. And my savant is not in biomedical or music or anything like that. My entire life has been spent in understanding the human condition, exploring that, because I've been on a search my entire life for myself. And over the course of the last 50 years, I just turned 50 in June, over the last 50 years, it's manifested in ways that I was unaware of until I had a near-death experience, the car accident last year. How that comes all into play with the reveal, it's all going to make sense here in a second, because you see these two ladies over here, the symbol above me, the superpower network. This is where all this all aligns. And so I'm going to fill in the rest of the story. How did we get here? And how are we going to get to the reveal? And why is the backstory important? Well, like I said, I predicted what's been going on in the United States 15 years ago. It stems from my experience as a counterintelligence agent. And I'm going to go into a lot of detail, but it's important for you to understand the level of experience of what my experience is, because there's a lot of naysayers. I mean, the pushback that I got when we left counterintel, both my wife and I, when we left counterintelligence, the pushback that we got back from the community of like, oh, you're a traitor because you're going public. It's like, dude, what else are you going to do if you're done doing that career, right? You're allowed to go out and make a name for yourself, and it wore off, and it may come back around this time again at a bigger level because I'm getting more attention. But you know what? That's their issue, not mine. And these are just the things that you have to understand and grow through when you're trying to escape a system. And then once you've escaped that system, helping others awaken to what's actually going on in the world that is being manipulated by social media and influencers who are broadcasting irresponsibly. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. And then it comes down to the fact that they're unaware of themselves. I mean, people like Elon Musk are a product of the same systems. He had role models, he had people he was followed by, he was programmed, right, as we all are, by the people that are ahead of us, typically our parents, and the people that raise us and influence us that are a part of that system, who want to make sure that system continues by instilling those programs, by making sure that you are unaware of those programs. Because here's the thing, folks, we are not what we think we are, right? And I'm going to go into a lot of this into later conversations, especially when I get into things like quantum physics, the mindset, conversations, all those kinds of things. We're going to go down the rabbit hole of consciousness completely and understanding the mapping of things. I mean, our body of work is literally, we're now informing things like artificial intelligence, autism, dementia, schizophrenia, right? Those things, DID, it's no longer schizophrenia, DID, right? Because of the level of work and understanding that we have, because our body of work didn't end when it when we left government. It was just getting warmed up because our body of work, my wife's body of work, actually, I've been the tag along, bounce it off the matrix type of guy for her. I'm subject zero for all things superpowers because I was unaware of my autism, but she saw it, but didn't know what it was and helped me put together all my pieces and parts. And if it wasn't for this woman and her brilliance and her love and her patience, I'd be lost. I'd be lost. And I've come to know that there are more men my age, if you're 50 or close to 50, 40 or older, I believe that are so many people that are undiagnosed with autism at some level that they're just unaware. And it's unfortunate because that means we have an entire society of people. If you know anything about autistics, we don't have any sense of self. I mean, I literally, I have to keep my mind like what's in front of me, what's being reflected back to me is what I become, and so I have to maintain full control over my mind in order to maintain my highest self, in order to be aware of my highest self. Otherwise, I go internal and I retreat, and I'm the kid in the corner, the autistic kid in the corner, sucking his thumb because his mind is overwhelmed by the energetics of just my human condition of autism, right? But here's the thing, it's a spectrum, folks. It means we're all on it somewhere, which means that those traits are inherent to all of us, right? And this is important to understand because left unchecked, it's easily manipulated by those who have less than your best interest in mind. Um, and whether they're aware of it themselves or if it's just a byfunction of their own programming, right? Because if you're not aware of your programs, if you don't become the observer of your own programs, of what's running your thoughts, what's controlling your behaviors, what's controlling your actions, like if you're overweight, like I was, right? After the accident last year, I got up to 340 pounds, thanks to my boy, Michael Anders. Brother, he's worked magic. I'm down 84 pounds right now, and I'm 30 pounds away from my goal. So, this is what it takes, though, is you have to be, was the final, one of the final programs I had to overcome, right? And I'm going to go into that conversation at a later time, but you have to be aware of your programs, because if you're not aware of your own programs, your own biases, your own beliefs, then they run you, they control you. That's how marketing works. So there's really nothing super secret about it, folks. It's how marketing works, right? And our body of work stems from my wife's body of work that she started over 30 years ago. And some of the conversations that happen here in this container of her body of work, we're going to be exploring at a later date in conversation with her when I actually bring her on the show, because I want her to share her story as to what that is and what that's not. Um, So we're going to bring her on to the show, but essentially our body of work stems from her body of work 30 years ago when she was at ASU. And just to summarize what it is, without going into a lot of detail, because I want her to be able to share this on our show, she was an undergrad and she was a student at ASU during the height of the Rodney King riots. And the students in Phoenix were in an uproar, right? And ASU didn't really know, really didn't know what to do because they didn't see a problem with it. The administration at ASU didn't see a problem with what's going on, but the students were in uproar because of what was going on with the Rodney King riots in LA. And they wanted to bring it to the attention of the administration, like, hey, this is the problem, but the administration couldn't see it because of their privilege. Well, a group of however many students were going to try to overthrow the administration, and my wife and two other students stepped in and said, "Hey, let us take a chance. Let's see if we can bring them to the table." And sure enough, they did, and they were able to meet the middle. And ASU ended up hiring my wife and the two other students to actually teach and train effective communication to white people, basically teaching white people how to communicate with brown people, BIPOC people, right? Because they didn't know how. And in the process, they set up an organization called the Intergroup Relations Center, and it was designed to support the differences that were represented on the community, on the campus, right? Where with this going on in the world, and this person is of that religion, and we've got this population here that's part of that thing that's now under that part of that marginalized population that's now under attack. How do we talk about it? How do we discuss it? Right? And manage that in an ecosystem on a community campus. And then 9/11 happened, and she joined the military at 27 with a master's degree, um, and found herself doing some really cool shit. And we'll bring her on the show, and she can share whatever she's comfortable with it sharing. But she worked for an agency that no longer exists, and she's one of the only agents in the world that's actually testified on a real world espionage case. She's been in federal court, testified against somebody who was committing espionage against the United States. My wife is a badass. And yeah, she knows how to knife fight, and she can do reverse 150-mile-an-hour J turns. Yeah, she got to do all the cool James Bond shit that my that my recruiter lied to me about, right? Now he didn't lie, just wasn't selected for that. My journey was a little bit different. I'll share that in a minute as I wrap up my wife's backstory, because it's important that you know that this is like our life is in the consciousness space. Go listen to my daughter's shows, how she speaks, how she talks, how our daughter shows, how she speaks, how she talks. You'll see how it's modeled in our home. We have an entire show called Reclamation you can listen to. But this is how modern day families that are aware of what's going on in the world talk to each other. I'll make sure the links get in the sidebars, right? So my wife is amazing. My daughter is brilliant. My wife's body of work is what's really driven this, because it was at the counterintelligence special agents course where we met, right? After she was medically discharged, after she had testified in federal court on an actual espionage case, she ended up at the schoolhouse teaching, and as they say, the rest is history. My backstory a little bit different. I was just regular Joe, but I took CI like you wouldn't believe. It lined up with my entire life's purpose. To say, I mean, I didn't know it until my near-death experience, but I had been searching for my I am, essentially, right? I was searching for my I am. I was searching for my self-identity and who I was, and understanding things like religion, which we're going to destroy the hell out of, and deconstructing it. Now, don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean faith. faith is a huge component, super important to the human condition and the quantum computers that our minds are in order for us to actually be able to navigate life in flow, ease, and grace. It's only when our egos get in and get in the way that it really becomes an issue, and we're gonna that plays a super important role. So tag that little piece right there, ego, right? Set that aside. We're going to come back to that during the latter part of this show. Um, and so my experience, I found myself at Fort Lewis, Washington, and I got stationed with Alpha Troop, Apocalypse, 114 Cav, Swebwe Moi, Third ID, Tip of the Spear. Um, Analyze that for whatever you want it is for yourself. I've okay. Anyways, um, and while I was there, I got stationed with the cab units. I was an embedded intelligence guy that the military really hadn't thought out too far because I didn't speak Arabic. They didn't really figure out what to do with counter intel guys um, for the most part. And so I spent most of my career doing stuff as a Cav Scout, but doing intelligence stuff within the Cav Scout. But I never deployed because I ended up on convalescent leave for surgery. And then while I was on convalescent leave, I got pulled down to a new unit, and I was part of a digital brigade. I was the only counterintelligence guy left on base that was available to fill the slot. It was for an S2 position, and when they finally got somebody back in that was getting ready to retire, he took the slot, and I was just the face of it essentially. I was the guy running it because he was just getting ready to retire, and so and then I got out, and but what I was in, I ended up riding. My top, if you're watching this, you'll probably remember this, and this is something I am forever grateful for. It was one of those moments that, I joined the military to utilize this skill set, and I wasn't utilizing it. Um, and so I got drawn for staff duty one night, and I drew up a blueprint for weekly training specifically for counterintelligence agents in order to keep our skill set fresh. Because I mean, I know the military put like $350,000 into me alone just for my training and my clearance, and so it's like let's. I don't want to lose this skill set that I fucking sacrificed my life for to do. So I put together some training because everybody else in the scout unit was like, oh, this is cool. We could be a scout and stuff. I was like, no, I want to be a CIA agent. And so I was on staff duty and I was typing this thing up, and I kid you not, the brigade, the brigade commander comes by and goes, what are you working on? And sir, I'm working on a proposal for a training program for the counterintelligence agents. And he's like, I want a copy on my desk on Monday. I'm like, okay. And so I worked on it diligently and distributed it, whatnot. Sure enough, it ended up getting initiated the last year or so that we were there before my unit deployed. And so it was good. I felt like I had contributed to the agents that were there, so they were fresh when they got over there, and that was really part of the start of my training career as an agent. Just because my straws just didn't end up where I needed to be for whatever reason. I now know this because when my unit deployed, I talked about this publicly. My platoon was taken out. Um, they were clearing a cache, a weapons cache overseas, and my platoon in particular was responsible for clearing the cache. My squad in particular, my sergeant, who I reported directly to, who, had I been there, would have been the one who had received the mortar round that exploded in his chest. How do you reconcile that, right? If not by divine intervention, faith. It's the only thing I could chalk it up to is faith. Because I've now been saved from death twice. Um, Last year in the car accident, near death experience that I had, and I'm going to do an entire show on that. And yeah, don't mind the tears. It's the I've learned that if my autistic mind doesn't fully express as I am, then it builds up and it's not good. And so I just express as I am. It's the only way I know how it works for me. Um, Most of the information that's coming through, I have no idea where it's coming from. I'm just sharing it, some memories, whatever it is. Um, but anyways, I digress. Where was I? Oh yeah, Iraq. Uh, so anyways, I got out, went through a divorce, and got two great kids out of it. They're absolutely amazing, um, absolutely amazing. Love them to death, and I'm so grateful that they are very much a part of my life. Um, and when I got out, I took a job in Iraq, paid off my debts. Da, da, da. I actually got to go do a portion of my job. Right? I mean, they teach you 281 different skill sets at the skill house, at the excuse me, at the schoolhouse. Um, I know because I wrote a third of them. And so did my year in Iraq. I can get into war stories over there, but I was up in Tal Afar. Got to serve on the same base that my platoon was on, so I got to be in the same area and pay my respects. I lost three other friends while I was over there to various military incidents, and so I understand PTSD. I understand trauma. It's part of the mind's. I mean, it's part of human nature, right? I mean, there's so much unresolved trauma in our world that really is what has led us to where we're at because everybody's just looking for somebody to blame and nobody's wanting to take personal responsibility. And we see that reflected in the media, right? We see that reflected in what's going on in the world. Yeah, I mean, for those with eyes to see and ears to hear, anyways. Because this episode, the reveal on the back end here, as I wrap up my own backstory um, and move into how I got to the reveal, it's important because, like I said, I predicted this 15 years ago, and the network was born as a solution for what I had predicted. We didn't know it at the time. It unfolded it. We just knew that we needed to be broadcasting. And that's what got us into podcasting. And that's since grown into so much larger, so much larger. We've got 600 videos, 2,000 podcast episodes. We're producing new content. I've got movie scripts, TV shows. You can go learn about it at superpowernetwork.com. But the backstory of how we got here is what's really important. And so I want to finish now. Fast forward to, I think it was 2006. I ended up back in Iraq. Like I said, for the year in Talifar, came back. It was 2005 to 2006. Came back and found myself teaching at the Counterintelligence Special Agents course, and that's where I met my wife. Right, and together we taught, we trained agents, and basically based off of her experience and based off of my experience in the training program that we put together, we trained over 5,000 agents with. And we've spent, ever since we left, we made sure that nothing that we've ever shared, and just so for the record, nothing I ever share here will ever be classified. I don't have access, don't have placement access, haven't had placement access in what was it? 10 years now. I think I turned my badge and credentials in December 2014. I was doing background investigations for all the three-letter agencies. And so, for people that needed clearances, I was doing subject interviews, neighborhood checks, all that kind of fun stuff. Gross. I really do podcasting. And so, yeah, December 2014, I gave up all my access, and we didn't start broadcasting anything until 2016. But when we left, we had continued our research because we saw the power of what we had created with and taught our agents. Um, and I'm not going to get into what I actually taught our agents because we ended up spending the next 5, 6 years dissecting everything that we did and disinfecting it to where it was all based off of our own ideas, our own knowledge, our own understanding of the human condition. And then we created our own language of superpowers, words that you already use, but a reorganization of language in the mind to help you navigate your life on a daily basis so you can actually create. Because, like I said, these are quantum computers. And when I get to the episodes where we're talking about things like AI and consciousness, we just did a speech. Or this is one of our keynotes that we deliver on AI and consciousness and how it actually works. Because right before the car accident, we had a huge scientific breakthrough, and we actually mapped the energetics of consciousness. And it's not, like I said, we're not who we think we are. And we've been training folks in it now for years. The information's out there. You can go find it and study it on our courses. This is what we've been doing for the last 8 years. Because we finally were able to dial in exactly what we were doing and what we were doing. Because my wife got guidance. Her guidance was clear: awaken masses, right? Bring everybody into the same conversation and get everybody working together. We have to do that now. It's what we've been doing for the last 8 years. We're in the top 1.5% of podcasts globally. It's awesome. I watch TV shows. I can see our influence through the field. That's how it works, right? You ever have an idea that you didn't take action on, but years later you find out somebody else did? The wheel will. It's what the wheel will. It's how the field works. And we're going to get into that because I worked with some of the very first remote viewers. Project Stargate, go look it up. ChatGPT it. What is Project Stargate? It's declassified. You'll see all that. I worked with some of the first remote viewers. And so I've been exploring things. And if you understand autism for what it is and how the field potentiality, where both particles and where we're not observing, they've actually found it. And I'll share a link in the sidebar where you can go see it. But all that, we're going to dive into remote viewing and all that kind of stuff and whatnot later on. But how do we get to the network? Well, when we first left government, we happened to leave around the same time that Facebook and social media was coming online. And we saw what people were creating. This was before AI. And I walked to school uphill in the snow 2 miles, right? um, what had happened was all these videos are now getting produced, and I was just deciding whether or not I was going to tell this part of the story or not. And yeah, I'm going to. I had developed a scenario for our agents, and part of this problem set that they had to solve for was subversive messaging from influencers to see if they could identify where it was coming from. And given the course was, I don't remember, 12 weeks long or 18 weeks long. Only a small percentage of the agents were actually able to solve for it. But the ones that did saw it. And I don't attest to it for anything other than length of time of training that was available for the problem set, because it's such that such operations take years to actually see the patterns that unfold from such things. Um, and for the record, like I said, anything top secret, I literally have no access, no placement. Everything that I'm sharing here is my experience my reality, my opinion, and it is my opinion that the reveal I'm going to share has nothing to do with more than the butt-hurt egos of two high functioning autistic men who are ambitious and wanting to change the world, but they don't know what they're doing. Or if they do, that's for law enforcement to find out, intelligence agencies to find out, because I'm too busy raising capital to bring my inspirational studio to the surface. I don't care. I'm only bringing this to the American public's attention for the sole purpose of look left, look right. Those are your family members. Those are your neighbors. Those are people that you say you care about. And when I look out at the world, I see the cognitive dissonance that's being caused by the ambition of these two men who really just want to get their message out to the world. But they don't realize that it's causing damage in a very big way. Very big way. And if it was intentional, then that's for somebody else to decide. I don't care because I believe the best in humanity always, always will lean on the side and err on the side of the best of humanity, because we all will know what the ugliness in humanity looks like, which is what's gotten us here. And it's the only thing I'm going to show out, because I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm a humanitarian. I vote independent and I vote for whoever I feel is going to do the job best and who has humanity's best decisions in mind and at heart. And part of this show is guys like me don't talk like me. They don't. I'm a dying breed. White male America is scared. I don't care what you say. They're scared at the subconscious level because they don't understand that we're all the same. It's all energy. That's all this is. Here's the one to play in your mind. If the table that my microphone is sitting on is solid, because quantum physics in my mind and subconscious mind looks at it and observes it, tells me that it's solid, but quantum physics tells me that it's not in my best interest, that it's more actually empty space than it is matter, and that the only reason why it is solid and my microphone's not falling to the floor is because it's in my best interest so I can continue to record the show. If that's true, which science has proven it, so is the flesh, so is the ears, so your thoughts, your brain, your organs, all of it. This is information that's out there. I'm not the only one saying these things. I just happen to have some bona fides that catch some attention, which is where the network comes into play. Because when we left government, we set out to, we saw that we weren't the only people saying these things. There's a whole entire community. I mean, I got over 2,000 episodes on my show, on our network, right? Over 18 shows, 6 channels. We've got a footprint 15 times bigger than our largest competitor, superpowernetwork.com. Because when I identified this problem 15 years ago, I wasn't going to go out in the world. My wife and I weren't going to go out in the world without being able to talk about these things and not offering a solution. It's irresponsible. Completely irresponsible. And that's part of the problem that we have here is we have a lot of people bitching and complaining about the problems of our society, but nobody wanting to offer solutions that are equitable and in everybody's best interest. The people making decisions are only making decisions for what's in their best interest or what they feel. And if their own small-mindedness, bigotry, or whatever programs that they run tell them otherwise, what makes you think that they're going to actually take care of you? We live in a free society. It's all about educating yourself. We're going to talk about why Elon Musk wants to get rid of the education system. We're going to talk about that psychological wound as to how that's manifest. It should be fairly obvious for those to see, but we're going to talk about it anyways. So, the solution became the network. Broadcasting people. I mean, one point in time during the height of COVID, we were getting 5 million downloads a month. We're still in the top 1.5% of podcasts globally. And we're on a pause outside of this new show that I've now created to start producing content. I'm now producing new content because I'm finally healed from the car accident. So that's a whole nother conversation. So where are we? Well, we're fast forward, left military, doing background checks, know nothing about business. And my wife and I we're doing background checks. We're trying to figure out how we're going to translate our skill set over into helping the world, right? I mean, we've got this training, we've got this knowledge, we've got this understanding. How do we take that and help the world without violating our secret commitments, right? And I've always tested the fact that I'm a counterintelligence agent. I just never really said what my function was, which is what my big reveal is. I'm the former head trainer for all U.S. Army counterintelligence source operations. You do the math. You figure that out. I ran the course. I ran that division. I ran that section of the training. That's my bona fides. I've never openly talked about it because it didn't openly matter because it wasn't pertinent to what I was doing. Well, the universe seems to have had other plans for me. And so the network came about as that solution. We wanted a place where everybody that was talking about what we were talking about, the same thing, put them into the same voice and amplify it. Because amidst a sea of 5 million podcasts, your individual practitioners, the ones that have the means, there's a lot more of us out there that understand these things than you're aware of. Things like frequencies, and you're not your body, you're not your mind, right? People like God Sod will have you believe otherwise, keep you unaware. Excuse me. So that's what the network became this beacon. Over the last 8 years, we tried everything because we didn't know exactly what we wanted. And so I literally built everything myself along with my team. I had 5 or 6 people helping me, our production company. We were producing the height of it. We were producing, good night. We had, like I said, 18 shows, and we were producing 18 shows at a time. We were sometimes airing, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day across all of those shows. And we literally created the McDonald's of podcasting for it. It was all ran by our, at the time, 9-year-old and a group of VAs out of the Philippines, like 12 of them. Team, you are amazing. We wouldn't be here without you, all of you. And we're actually looking at, once the studio gets funded, I'm actually in the process of raising money. You can find the GoFundMe campaign in the link as well. But we're going to be flying them over for the premieres, have them here when the network goes live, Hollywood style. So we're looking forward to that. And we wouldn't be here without them and their diligence, their patience, their love. They truly became family. And when the car accident happened and we ended up having to stop production on all things, it was heartbreaking. It really was. We miss them. We miss them dearly. We talk about our overseas family quite a bit, and we're looking forward to bringing them back in as we ramp up things and where we can plug them in as necessary, and regardless, getting them over here for the red carpet event. So, God willing, let's make that happen, please. That would be amazing. It really would. So the shows. Had some amazing success, and along the way, we created we had a coaching program where we had multiple clients. I don't know how many clients we had at one point in time. I think we were managing 15 or 20 clients at a time. That maybe less than that, 5 or 10. I don't know what it was. but we had a team of 5 coaches to where we understood that, when you coach with just an individual person, unless that person's got all their shit together, they're not going to know everything, right? And so, so we had coaches that had all their shit together, but they specialized in things like relationships and this person's parenting and so forth. And so, I mean, our daughter, he was even whenever there was some wounded child work that needed to be brought out, she came forth and she was one of our coaches. And so we've been doing this work, helping people, assisting them for some time. And we ran that program, but we ran everything through our website. And so our website became our Frankenstein. So if you go to it now, I beg your apologies. It's currently in the process of being rebranded to get you this information more efficiently so you can get this knowledge, train yourself up, train your own consciousness, step into your own awareness, and see the world for yourself. Make decisions for yourself, because I'm not here to tell you how to think. I'm just telling you how your mind works, because that's what I've been doing for the last since I was 8 years old. And essentially weaponized for the military as an instructor. I left because I saw the threat that social media in the hands of privileged individuals who will do anything for a buck and a click with zero consideration for the overarching impact of people that they are bigoted against because of their privilege. Let's call it what it is. You're right, it's not racism, it's privilege. And it's part of the patriarchy, and it's part of the patriarchy that needs to be destroyed, because that no longer serves us. And you can see it. The patriarchy is clinging on to its existence because the world's tired of it. We're sick of it. We don't need to be led by cocks and swords anymore. No. You haven't seen The Queen on Hulu? Oh, Tony, dude, I love you, man. Tony McKenna, you are brilliant in every expression of what you presented in that beautiful piece of work. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. The Queen on Hulu. One of my favorite shows that really kind of sets the roots of how our patriarchy came to about. But that's really where we're talking about. That's that's what's being fought for here. Is privilege is dying, and those with privileged mindset who don't have consideration for others until it becomes their problem is really what's at stake here. Right? If there's any bigger games, I don't know. I don't care. This is the egos of 2 men, like I said, and privilege of what's going on in our nation. That's really what's being leveraged here. So we set out because we wanted to be the example, because like television, right? I mean, if you're familiar with the backstory of Mr. Rogers, when TV was brand new, Mr. Rogers saw the powerful influence that it would have. And he petitioned Congress and said, hey, look, in a free society, right? A free society, the videos that you can now watch on your phone, the movies, the TV shows that you watch on your phone are going to have an influence. Because in a free society where any creator can create what they want, unless we put some guidelines as to what's allowed and what's not allowed, the government should at least attest to a single station being a place that says, hey, the government knows that there's a lot of choices out there, but if you're looking for wholesome family content, I mean, Mr. Rogers broke the racial tension, the racial lines on television for the first time. He knew it was powerful. He put his feet in a swimming pool with a black man at the time that it was legal to do such. It was impactful and it worked. He had the foresight to be able to petition Congress to be able to do stuff. And that's why the Superpower Network exists, is to set a better example, because where television, where you can watch stuff, is inspirational, right? It's literally you're watching somebody else's creation. You're watching somebody else. Somebody else has basically mapped it out for you. in your mind, and you're just getting to enjoy it, right? That's how you know Luke uses a green lightsaber, Mace uses a purple one. That's how you know that, because you've seen it. Podcasting in new media is different because it's conversation. And it's conversation that's limited by the intelligence and biases of the people that are broadcasting and their intention behind why they're broadcasting. And the reason why that's important is unlike TV, that's inspirational, where you're seeing somebody else's creation. When you're consuming podcasts, when you're consuming new media, right? Excuse me. Let's face it, nobody actually sits and watches people talk on new media. They just run play and then they let it run in the background while they're doing work, right? Where television's inspirational, podcasting in new media is transformative, because the information that's being presented to you in new media as you're consuming this now has to run through your own internal mapping of the information and what you know to be true. Otherwise, you don't understand it. It has to be broken down to a level of which people have to understand, but it's a lot easier to get a click, to make a buck, earn a following, to be divisive, to set people off, to divide a country for the sole purpose of making a dollar, unwittingly or wittingly. I don't care. It's irresponsible as an American. And that's really what happened, because we stepped out at a time where Facebook was coming out and we saw the dangers of new media and wanted to set out to provide a solution. And we were set to go live last year. Man, God, we had just had that huge breakthrough. And then the car accident happened. A year and a half later, here we are. 5 months, I've been busting my ass to get back online, dropping the weight, doing the work, building a team, to take the network live, to provide the solution so we can petition Congress to set some standards of broadcasting in new media, to hold broadcasters like Alex Jones. We'll start for that. Holding people like him accountable. And we're just now starting to see the fallout of what this is going to happen, right? Alex Jones is just the top. You think there's a fallout of pedophiles in Hollywood? For the record, not everybody in Hollywood's a pedophile. Some of these people are my friends, like Michael Pritchard, who is Robin Williams' best friend. He's been my mentor for the last 12 years. He's a warrior, a general on the battlefield. Michael, I love you, man. You are part of my daily inspiration. This man's 75 years old, best friends with Robin Williams. You know what he does? What he spends his time doing? He's in the streets every day, counseling at high schools, grade schools, dealing with the bullies and the fallout, the victims, and educating kids on how to effectively communicate, how to see each other through love, how to remember that love is the only thing that is going to get us through this. We got to stop hating on one another. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But Michael was a general, and when the shit really hits the fan, he has to go to court and testify on the behalf of the victims. This is a man that doesn't have to do. He won an Emmy for a single episode on Taxi in, I think it was 1974. One of the funniest men alive, one of the biggest hearts alive. And that's how he spends his time, because he's a patriot. He knows that there's a spiritual war out there. Anyway, we got to stop this Republican Democrat bullshit. This is about humanity at this point, not the egos of two butthurt men who are just trying to make a name for themselves. One of which is just trying to get off the fucking planet. And so that's what the network became. That's the dream. That's why I'm raising capital. That's why. Why now? Synchronicity, serendipity. I don't know. I'm just now aware of my high functioning autism. It's been about 5 months now that I'm now aware of it. We'll talk about going down the rabbit hole. Ooh, I'm going to share that story. That's another day. So this is the part where I now share. I want to take you on a journey because I was going to decide. I wasn't going to produce this, but I'm not going to produce this. I'm actually just going to download this, share it, upload it. I don't want it. It's too much fucking work. I don't care. And I actually got stuff I want to talk about. Right? I've got stuff like remote viewing and superpowers. I'm going to put a list of superpowers at the end of this. I want to talk about these things, how we can use them to create a better world. Go watch the video on the Superpower Network page. It's all about better communication, effective communication, because half the time we think we're communicating, but we're not. Especially if you're autistic. I know that. We're too afraid to express, but if you think you've expressed, but you haven't, you've done it so in your own mind. How do I know that, right? Crazy. Because I've helped thousands of people at this point in time through my individual training and my individual coaching, my individual mentoring, and the programs that we ran with our coaches. That's how I know. And it's effective, extremely effective. That's how I know. So, how did we get here? The reveal. This is the part you want. Take notes because I'm not going to produce this, but I'm going to go in the guideline. I'm going to pull up my notes here, okay? Because I don't want to work too hard in this. I've worked too hard for it already, and so. But I'm going to take you on the guideline as I went on it, because when I finally came out of the accident towards the end of trying to figure out everything. There it is. Okay. Ah, yes. Okay. Yeah. There it is. Okay, here we go. July of this year is where I was at. I may end up having to produce this. There's a shitload, but we're going to go through it anyways. Okay. Um, yeah, folks, this is crazy. You're going to have to follow the timeline, but here we go. So, July of this year, no, I'm sorry, July of 23. I apologize. I was in the wrong year. July of 23. I'm going to see if I can find the actual date here. I believe it was July 26th. Yeah. July 26th. July 26th. Yeah. Where are you at there? Yes, stay with me. There it is. Okay, nope, July 30th. I'm sorry, it was July 30th of this year, 2024. July 30th, 24. This is where I saw it. Was first introduced to me. Came to me through a friend of mine. He was responding to some of the stuff that I was posting on social media because he was like, "Oh, you're a crazy Democrat." Whatnot. No, I'm not a crazy Democrat. I'm actually just opposed to narcissism and bigotry and privilege. And so I was making comments and whatnot, and he shared this video with me. And it aired on July 30th, 2024. And it was on a TV show, or I'm sorry, a YouTube channel called Impact Theory. And it was featuring Godsod, who is a Canadian marketer. He's a marketing psychologist. Let that sink in. who was been out trying to make a name for himself since 2014. He started on Joe Rogan in 2014, had another appearance in Rogan in 2015, and has been on Rogan, I think, a total of like 8 times since. I don't know. Chat GPT it for yourself. You can see all the dates for yourself. But he's been on Rogan multiple times. But in particular, this episode of Impact Theory caught my attention because I had no idea who this guy was. But my buddy, my supposed buddy, who's no longer a friend, I don't remain friends with bigots. My so-called buddy sent me this video, and he used it as an argument for why he thought I was crazy, essentially. And I thought it was nuts. I was like, what are you talking about? And so I actually watched it. And I mean, he laughed at me. He was saying, it was just, this guy was just a dick. And so I went and watched it and I listened to it and I stopped. I had to stop at the last 15 minutes in because I was so pissed off. So pissed off. The complete false science and half truths in the first 15 minutes of that video alone are proof of psyops. Absolute 100%. And I think it was manufactured by Elon Musk. As we go down the rest of the storyline, rest of the timeline, and I'm going to read it. So get your pencil and paper out. But this was the entry point. I saw this and I went, this doesn't even make sense. And so I'm going to sum up this one episode for you, and then you can go down the rabbit hole yourself. Okay. In this episode, one, if it remains, I'll put the link up, but hopefully you get to see it. Somebody doesn't take it down, but it's there. In this video, he literally spends the first 15 minutes describing Trump derangement syndrome by going through describing how he believes the prefrontal cortex works. And the half truths that he shares, but essentially what he shares is that he basically goes on to say, and he identifies that the prefrontal cortex is what is responsible for us identifying in reality with one another, right? One, he doesn't realize that we don't ever share a shared reality. The best we can ever do is share a shared space, and we might have similar experiences, but perspective has proven that otherwise, right? Psychology, dude. It's why eyewitnesses are the least reliable form of testimony in court, but we still use it because it has an emotional, psychological effect on the jury. Because we can find its similarities in our own mind, but it's never really the same thing. Don't believe me? Ask a woman who's been raped. So we don't exist in the same realities. But he was using it as an argument that our prefrontal cortex is designed to make sure we have a shared reality. That's a falsity. And he stopped it pretty much there, saying that, because everybody else sees Trump as this savior, if you don't, that means your prefrontal cortex is wrong and there's something wrong with it. It's a mental illness. And that's essentially been God's underlying message since day one. He's got an entire roadmap that lays it out. And the way I see it is God's probably a little autistic himself, and he might have found something that worked for him. And like everybody that just wants to help, he wanted to get it out there because it worked for him. It's not meant to work for everybody else. Just like Paul's teaching in the Bible weren't meant for everybody. They were meant for those communities that he served, and they were forced upon everybody else. That's another conversation. We're talking about that in another show. So I understand the ambition of an entrepreneur trying to do the best thing, but it makes you wonder. He's Lebanese Canadian. Why the quid pro quo for Canada. I mean, obviously Trudeau doesn't want us. I mean, he's saying, we're going to fight or whatever it is he's saying, right? But Trump's pretty much insistent on it. Well, why? It's a question I have. I don't want to answer. Somebody else can freaking answer it. Put the dots together, right? I think there was I'd help you do this type of thing. Who knows? We'll see. Not mine to find out. I'm here to educate. That's it. So get your pens and papers out, boys and girls, because here's the timeline. Once I'm done with this, I'm going to wrap it up because I'm tired. God, I don't even know how long I've been typing, reporting. But here it is, July 8th, 2014. Saw it on Rogan talking about his stuff. August 12th, 2015, saw it on Rogan again. Circa 2015, 2016, Elon Musk's son starts puberty blockers on transition, give or take. I'm just a rough guesstimate because I'm trying to figure this out because y'all remember when Elon Musk went on Dr. Peterson, right? And he basically blamed the entire woke left for his son's transition. You know the excuse he gave, right? He was duped by the contract. That alone should give Tesla stockholders and the board of directors serious cause for concern. How did the world's smartest man get duped by a contract? He shouldn't have signed it then. He was that powerless. Think about that. The world's smartest man got duped by a contract he didn't understand because he failed to ask some questions. He didn't ask legal counsel. Or was it the fact he didn't have a relationship with his son? I'm going for option B. By all accounts of social media. But yet this is the man we idealize because he wants you to be homophobic because he doesn't understand human energetics. And yeah, we're going to get into the trans conversation later as well, and the pronouns and all that kind of stuff because it's all ridiculous. Nuanced programming of hate because somebody's telling you to hate. That's it. Because most of it's got nothing to do with your day in life if you know about it. If you're in it, your life, I mean. But yet you consume hate and are told to hate and consume hate because that's how your mind works. You become what you consume. And if you don't ever stop and think about what you're consuming, you don't ever stop and think about the words that are coming out of your mouth and what you're transmitting, what you're thinking, what you're believing, what you're saying. That's how the emperor's got no clothes. Elon Musk spread out his entire insecurities for the world to see on the Jordan Peterson show, and the world applauded this man. He's got a child that he can reach out and touch. He can hug. He can love. He can have conversations with and understand why. Help me as your father understand this. I want to know who you are. I want to feel you. I want to know what I can do to support you. How do I make it better? But he chose to think his kid's dead. And she's right there. Do the DNA test. It's his child. And then we get all the people on the right that are pro-lifers that uplift this. I know it's got nothing to do with each other. It's the mindset, folks. What? He essentially just killed off his own child in his mind. Mental illness? What? Huh? Why do we celebrate that? I mean, he literally aired his insecurities out and then used it as a justification. You know, to me, it was a fucking roadmap. It was motive. Because those problems didn't start in his family just when his son transitioned. It takes like 6 to 8 years to go through that process, which hormone blockers, circa 2015, 2016, would have put that right there. February 26, 2016, Saad was on Rogan again. August 24th, 2016, Saad was on Rogan again. December 14th, 2016, Elon Musk was appointed to President-elect Donald Trump's Economic Advisory Council. December 16th, 2016, was the first use of the word fake news in a tweet by Donald J. Trump. Watch the blue eye, brown eye experiment. The wave, 1981. The messaging since has been nothing but fake news. Democrats are bad. It's all their fault. They're mentally ill. Check social media. That's the entire message. Go watch the Kamala Harris debate. That's all he could say. That was the script, because that's what he was told to do, told to say. And I would put all my money on Elon Musk being the one that told him to say it. Because how else do you explain 2 days later that was in a tweet? At the same time, Elon was probably going through some of the craziest shit in his personal life. May 20th, 2017, God Saad and Dr. Jordan Peterson's earliest known public interaction. I'll leave that there. September 6, 2018, Elon Musk and Joe Rogan's earliest known public interaction. This is the famous smoking pot on camera. That, but you and I, as an employee with a top secret credential, you would have been toast. You would have been fired. Goodbye. Secret clearance revoked. December 20th, 2018, Saad and Rogan shows again, and he's been on Rogan's show multiple times since. And this is what I mean by responsible programming. If you're not vetting the information you're putting out by the guests that you're having on your show, you're endorsing them. Even if they are paying you to be on the show, you're endorsing them. If you're not questioning what they're putting out, you're either in alignment with it or you just don't have a vetting process and you don't know any different because you don't care. Because you don't think about the bigger impact of what your message is, because you don't see that yet, because you haven't been able to see through dollars. You haven't been able to see above dollars. You haven't been able to feel the impact yet. December 9th, 2020, National Space Policy Update. President Trump issued a National Space Policy Directive providing an update guidance on U.S. space activities. Leave it there. December 20th, 2020, one word, tweet. One word, Doge. December 20th, 2020, Doge. And if you understand how inspiration works in the mind of a genius, you'll understand where the acronym came from. Late 2021, early 2022, Elon's son starts to transition. May 11, 2022, Saad's on Rogan again. June 2022, so Elon's son transitions. By the end of, in April, April 2022, Elon begins his bid for SpaceX. And by the end of 2022, not SpaceX, he begins his bid for X. And by the end of 2022, he owns X. Okay. And we all saw the nut roll that he had to go through to do that. That's motivation. And I mean, any economics would have voted against. I mean, fuck, the world was kind of voting against. It looked like a stupid move, but he was motivated. Here's why. Let's see. Here's why I think why. Here's what's crazy. Now, this is where it starts to get a little weird. Okay. So you've seen up to this point, Saad's been on Rogan multiple times. Plus, he's been on God knows whatever else, publications, whatever else he's been doing to spread his word and his book, his knowledge or his so-called knowledge is fake knowledge, it's fake science. Um, and on April 23, or in April 2023, I don't know exactly the exact date, but God Sod made contact on Twitter to Elon. He said, "I truly respect and appreciate at Elon Musk's honey badger mindset. Well done." That's the first thing that God Sod said to Elon Musk. That was April. On May 9th, God Sod had a video on his YouTube channel where he was under a desk, and the title of it was Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson have sent me into permanent hiding, was the name of the video. It's basically a video of God Sod hiding under a table, saying he was scared of Elon Musk and the fact that Tucker Carlson, and if you watch the video, if it's still up, basically he was acting as if like he was basically saying, "Oh, with Tucker Carlson, I'm so scared because of free speech." Blah, 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 blah. I mean, it was an invite essentially, right? Whether it was a first communication, a second communication, whatever, it was clearly some sort of guidance, because after that, July 26, 2023, Saad was on Rogan again. And then here's the thing, nothing for 6 months. Ghost. And then January, February this year, we know that all the influencers met in Mar-a-Lago. We know this. We know that Elon was there. We know, I mean, it's all over the place, right? We know that Elon was at Mar-a-Lago. The media makes fun of him all the time of overstaying his stay at Mar-a-Lago. So we know that there were meetings at Mar-a-Lago at early beginning of this year. And then March 2024. Now, remember this last message, the first message from God to Elon was, he's a honey badger. The second message from God to Elon was, "Oh, I'm scared of you, Elon." And then nothing for 6 months. But then in March of 2024, God Sod appears on SpaceX. And promoting his anti-woke stuff. I mean, and backing his claim. It seems to me it was I see the pain you're going through. You're absolutely right. It's the woke. And there was a partnership formed. Watch the AI video. On March 9th, 2024, Saad was on Rogan again. And then July 22nd, Dr. Peterson's show, Elon Musk was on. And that's the whole show where he basically spells it out for you. There it is. Here's all my insecurities and why I've done what I've done. It's right there for you to see. July 30th was when Saad was on the impact theory. That's the very first video that I saw that I was like, oh shit, this is what this guy's been telling people. This is why we had it. And then mixed with the parodying of the fake news, Democrats bad, fake news, Democrats bad, fake news, Democrats bad, fake news, Democrats bad, that sets in the conscious minds of all the followers. Must be true. You tell a lie long enough, it must be true. Our free society is got pillars. One of those pillars is the free press. It's what allows us to bring new thoughts and ideas, that of which people like God Sod would tell you are dangerous. This country would not exist if it wasn't for new thoughts, new ideas. But God Sod and Elon Musk have people so scared up around the invasion. Right? We're going to talk about that too, the border. Yeah, the border is an issue, but it's a systems issue. You can't just put up a wall where all these people going to go, just going to stay in Mexico. Now it's Mexico's fault. You obviously don't have any issue or reference or perspective of what it takes to govern a nation. They're funneling into Mexico, right? They're coming in from Canada. It's a much more complicated situation than we think. And you can't throw your humanity out the window. God Sod's creation of suicidal empathy is ridiculous. Empathy is what makes you human. But if you're 40 years and older, and a man especially, you've been told not to feel. You've been told it's a weakness. It's my greatest strength. October 28th, 2024. Canadian Dr. Peterson psychoanalyzes, endorses Musk. If this if there's a governing board of psychiatrists in psychologists in Canada, this man's credentials need to be revoked. And I realized I didn't explain Sod's thing, because here's the thing: the whole thing on the impact theory where he's talking about the prefrontal cortex. I realized I didn't finish explaining that. So he explained Trump derangement syndrome, prefrontal cortex makes us all different, right? Or what allows us to create different realities. Maybe I did, but I don't need to tell you again, anyways. That doesn't take into account if you're small-minded, right? Bigoted. I already said that. You know that. It doesn't account for divergent thinkers. And Dr. Peterson's backing that? What? So you're saying if you think differently than anybody else, that's like literally what Hitler did to the Jews. Brown eye, blue eye experiment. Democrats are the brown eyes, Republicans are the blue eyes. And this entire charade was set off by Elon Musk's vulnerability to Sod's manipulation to promote his book and his ideas. Sod saw a way in to get his book and his ideas out there. And there it is. What happened from there? October 28, 2024, Peterson goes on and endorses Musk. So we got two Canadians now that are influencing Musk. This is election interference through new media because of Musk's vulnerabilities. I mean, why do you think he wants to get rid of the Department of Education? Well, how the hell are you going to govern then? What solutions do you have in place? We haven't heard any other than we're just getting rid of it. Folks, that's how communism starts. You stopped educating the masses before they get too intelligent to catch on what's going on. Leave that there. And then here's my favorite part. Remember the what day was that? The one word tweet in 2020, Doge. That's my favorite part. November 12th, 2024, after the election. Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, is announced. Hope you were taking notes, because I'm not going back to do it again. I have better things to do in my life. Okay. I am of sound mind. I am some health, sound mind, sound soul. I love my life. I love my wife. I love my children. I would never do anything to hurt myself. This is all publicly available information. You can see it for yourself. You just have to know how to look for yourself. Follow the Sod timeline. Use ChatGPT, but understand that Elon Musk is emotionally compromised and is being driven by narcissistic ways and promoting the one thing that makes him feel better, which is Sod and his false science. Because the prefrontal cortex is the very thing in which I helped agents overcome so they could see their own programs. They could become the observer. They could see their own biases. They could see what that meant. Because imagine this, you're an agent and you've got somebody that's a source that you got to get close to. And are you going to really let your biases get in the way of your own beliefs, your own personal beliefs get in the way of getting close to a subject? If you've got no other way of getting close to them, you have to get in-group, out-group dynamics. You got to be able to get close to the person. You can't do that if you're a bigoted asshole, because you're actually portraying that energetically. It's a term we call congruency. And you can pick it up. And the cognitive dissonance that you're feeling in your mind right now is sheerly coming from the fact that you look left and you look right and you're like, I don't see the hate until you mention the word politics or pronoun. I've never seen people flip out over pronouns. Tucker Carlson is a piece of shit. Simple as that. He's a scared little man who is promoting fear and hate because he doesn't understand. I had a friend of mine ask me, are you a big proponent on the pronoun conversation? I'm like, if I'm in a relationship with a person who've asked me, who's asked me to reuse a pronoun, I'm going to respect that for the relationship. But part of the programming has been literally part of the programming has been this divisiveness of generalization, because if you're not paying attention, Matt Gaetz is a pedophile. And the entire argument that the Republicans have been using against the Democrats in the they generalization of they is that they're all pedophiles. They're all, huh? But yet we were going to put this guy in charge of things? That's cognitive dissonance. That doesn't make sense, which is why the Republican Party is tearing itself apart right now. It can't figure out where it's stemming from. They can thank Elon Musk for that, because his wounded ego is so obviously shouting out he wants to shut down everything woke. He found his best friend, God Saw, to do it with. And that's all this is motivated by, is Elon Musk's wanting and desire to shut down everything woke, which he's equated to everything Democrat. It's not the case, obviously, because the weight of a person is not only in their thoughts, but in their actions. And I know plenty of Democrats, as I know plenty of Republicans, who might put some of this information together differently than I do. Like I said, I don't care. I see it as two men's egos trying to end something that they perceive as a threat to their own individual existence, just as Hitler did when he perceived the Jewish population as a threat to his existence. Same program, folks. Same program. Whether or not all the players involved, all the people that involved, God saw it, had him, promoted him on the show, I believe them all to be unwitting, with the exception of the two involved. How involved President-elect Trump is, I don't know. I have to trust that he is a patriot. His actions have shown me otherwise. Whether he was witting or unwitting, I don't know. But that's what's been going on. That's the timeline. Write it out, figure it out for yourself. For those with eyes to see. If you like this, if this was informative for you, if these kinds of conversations are what you want more of, follow, subscribe, share. Thank you. I'll put all the links inside comment. You know what to do. Till then, remember this, folks. I'm going to be on this, trying to do this at least once a week. I'm not going to be talking politics. This is the last time I talk politics from this perspective. I won't talk the timeline again, but I will talk about it because I'm going to be bringing on people like Dr. David Gruder, who's America's integrity expert, who will explain to you exactly what happens. I'm going to explain to it right now, right? Here's a breakdown of how the prefrontal cortex actually works. Explore this in depth and why God saw this so wrong. Because he says the prefrontal cortex, there's something wrong with it, right? Here's how it actually works and why religion doesn't work. Here's the hints. Here's the sneak peek, right? Everything that we perceive about ourselves and who we are in reality is dictated by our mind, right? Our eyeballs are actually extensions of our brain. Do you know that? They are. It's really cool. And in understanding that these are quantum computers, we process data through our meat suit, right? Through our senses, through our brain, through everything, right? Our perception of reality is based off the experience that we have in our minds, which is based off of the experiences that we had as children, how we were programmed, the experiences that we had, the traumas that we survived, all those things. If you grew up hating BIPOC individuals, that's your program. You're a bigot, right? That's your nature. You're small-minded. Whatever that is, because you don't see humanity as a whole, you see it as fragmented, and you therefore are better than privilege, right? That's what privilege does. It segments us out into castes. based off of experience. And those that are in a higher caste system have a privilege because they don't experience the fact that they're just people on the street just trying to survive day in, day out, trying to make ends meet, right? And people want to say, oh, it's no racism. It's systemic racism, right? Because I hear people tell me all the time, well, it's just a mindset thing. They just have the mindset. Tell that to the kid living in the hood, downtown Brooklyn, wherever, LA, pick a city, who's just trying to struggle to stay alive, not get shot in the streets, who has access to nothing. He's working 3 jobs just to help his parents pay rent because they're sick. You've seen the stories, folks. That's privilege. And we've got a group of people who don't experience life as that trying to tell us what that is. Because in the prefrontal cortex, here's what happens. When something comes into your mind, whether you hear it, sense it, feel it, read it, learn it, love it, whatever, however your mind, that data gets into your brain, the first part of your brain that it runs through is the prefrontal cortex. This is the Gestapo of the brain. It's what allows information to come in to get filtered. So your subconscious mind, your higher self, who you know yourself to be, the core of your brain, the programming core of who you are that exists, where all the programs, your behaviors, beliefs, and whatnot exist. If the information comes in and it's in alignment with that, ooh, life's good, right? There's no cognitive dissonance. But if there's something that comes into your brain, let's say just like transgender, right? That comes in your brain, and whatever you think you know about transgenderism, automatically the prefrontal cortex shuts down because if you have any biases of it, or you think you understand it, or you think you know it, you stop listening. The brain shuts off, the prefrontal cortex shuts off, the subconscious mind takes over, and you go into your lizard brain because anything that challenges that core belief that you have, your brain retreats into your lizard brain. It goes into fight, flight, or freeze, and you literally stop listening, or all you do is respond with what you think you know. And that's the problem. Most people are listening to respond, they're not listening to understand. And then when we consume stuff that reprograms, reinforces those core biases and beliefs that we've been programmed to believe to hate each other for the last 10 years, we wind up where we're at today. Look to your left, look to your right. My message is of unity. My message is of love. I had to die and come back for that. The near-death experience last year. Folks, just love each other. And recognize that these two gentlemen are a victim of the same society that people are trying to bring to people's attention. They are a byproduct of the same society of what I'm telling you here, of what I'm sharing with you here. The people that came before them programmed them. They just don't know any better. They're unaware of themselves. How else would you go on and protest to be the world's smartest man and air all of your insecurities, not knowing that that's the emperor showing no clothes, which is why I've advocated for transparency in everything. Always. Not hard, folks. It's only hard once. Because the biggest challenge is reconciliation of the fact that when you self-reflect on all the hate that you've been promoting, projecting, thinking, believing, saying, sharing, it just takes a single act of forgiveness to unwind it all. Recognition. You know what? When I said that, I was a dick. I apologize. And recognizing that your experience is not everybody else's experience. That's privilege when you think as such. Which is why we have to have more consideration in our communication, setting the proper containers when we communicate at all times. Superpowers are real, folks. People ask me all the time, how do you know that? Because I've got a brain and it works. You do too. Go consume better content, an entire database for you to consume. Search for the Superpower Network anywhere you listen to podcasts. Go to superpowernetwork.com. You can see what we're doing, learn more about what we're doing, contribute to what we're doing. So help us set a new standard for social media broadcasting to hold influencers to a higher standard like Mr. Rogers did. That's the goal. That's why our solution to this problem that I just presented, that I identified. I didn't think I was ever going to have to be doing this. I had prayed that we had gone on and we advanced farther on in the network than we had gotten before the accident. Obviously, the universe had other plans, but that was been the entire plan, was to build this network up to establish standards for new media. Because when I left, I knew this was going to happen. I just didn't think it was going to happen now. And here we are. Exactly what happened. Two privileged individuals with no concern for anybody but themselves and their own version of reality, trying to force it on others through influence at the highest of levels. Again, my message is of peace and love. We're all human. Understand your mind. Follow the show. Because every episode, I'm going to be deconstructing reality from truth. Much love. Stay safe. Stay present. Love each other. Love harder. Somebody asked me, what's love got to do with it? I said, well, you know what? Maybe nothing. Maybe that's the problem. I can move on now. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next episode. I don't have a sign off yet. I'm still trying to build my studio. So I'm recording out of my home studio. You can see the lamp at the side there. Right? So that's what I had to share. Now I get to share the fun stuff. Remote viewing, deconstructing religion. What kind of fun stuff do we want to talk about? Throw it in the comments. Share it. What do you want to know? And let's explore it, because I plan on having all the experts on. Neil deGrasse Tyson, alien guys, all of them. We're going to have them all on. We're going to deconstruct reality for truth. That's what the show is all about. Looking forward to it. I've already had a ton of people on the show on the network that's been playing. My wife's entire show is called Deconstruct Reality. So it's not new. This is just new to me. Welcome to the Superpower Network. Welcome to the Divergent Show. If you're here, you're my Divergent. Divergence unite. Spread the message, spread the word, spread the love. Love harder, love each other. Remember, we're all Americans here in the United States. We're all human beings who just are trying to get through the day and understand how we're going to survive at the next level. It starts by coming together and not letting them divide us. Love you all. Talk soon. More soon. Bye.